I really didn't want to have to talk about this, but I thought, well, I probably should. I was planning on doing a video on Twin Peaks, talking because it's one of my favorite TV shows, and I'd been umming and ahhing how to begin it. And unfortunately, in this past week on the 15th, we lost David Lynch, and now I'm sort of scrambling of thinking what to talk about really, but I thought, well, I'll talk about what David Lynch meant to me as someone who's really is the purest form of an artist. Like he didn't just stick to movies and television. He did music. He did like other forms of visual artwork, and it was just he. A lot of people use the term auteur, and when they describe people who do a lot of out of the box sort of stuff, but Lynch was really interesting sort of creator, and I'll freely admit that I don't necessarily like everything he did, and not everything he did is for everybody. That's definitely for sure. But his style is unique. It really was. It was very surreal and very, very interesting. And half the time you watch it and then you just like go, "What the heck did I just watch?" But you don't forget it, and many times you may go back to it again and you'll get something different from it, and that's really impressive to be able to pull that off. The first movie I was ever saw of Lynch's was, funnily enough, The Elephant Man. I was very young, and I can't remember. I believe it was one of my school teachers, and I'm thinking it was either the fourth grade or the fifth grade. So we're talking about 1984, 1985. It was on television, and I remember that my teacher at the time, as I said, I can't remember which grade it was, but suggested we watch it because it was like just an important sort of part of history and stuff like that. I don't think the teacher was necessarily going, "You should watch this because David Lynch is a really interesting director," because when you're like 9 and 10 years old, you really don't care. But it did stick with me because of the stark way it was made, and just the subject matter was very heavy. And I remember watching it with my mother, and I was just like, this whole scenario is messed up. Not because of Lynch, but just everything that happened in it. And that was like my introduction to him, and I was like, well, it was not something that you probably should be exposed to at such a young age. But I wasn't like horrified by it, and I didn't think, oh, I never want to see that again. I was just like, that was a weird film and kind of depressing. I didn't get back into seeing a David Lynch film until a few years later when I watched Dune for the first time. And I know a lot of people out there will go, "Oh, Dune's terrible. It's not faithful to the book." Because I honestly don't care. I really don't. I didn't enjoy it the first time because it was on television and the station that played it cut the opening monologue, and I was just like, without that, the movie makes very little sense because nothing's set up. You're just like, what's going on? What's everyone doing? Years later, I where I was living at the time, my housemate basically rented it, and I was like, I'm not this. And but the second I watched it with the opening monologue, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. Oh, whoops. And it actually quickly became one of my favorite sort of science fiction films. I don't care about the differences between the movie and the book. I know Lynch hated dealing with it because the whole sour taste that the studio system put in his mouth. And it's a shame because I still think it's pretty damn good. And I mean, I have like an actual poster on the frame poster outside, and I mean, I've got like this edition of it because I really, really like it. And I mean, as is Lynch, like there is stuff in there that you just go, yeah, that's so very Lynch. I think it's really, really solid film. I watched many of his other movies over the years, like things like Blue Velvet and Lost Highway and stuff like that. And some of them, as I said, some of them were really just like, what the heck am I watching here? And some of them just, yeah, I just like I remember watching Eraserhead, and I was just like, I never want to watch that movie again. I know a lot of people think it's brilliant. I just did not get it, and I never had the inclination to go back and rewatch it. But it didn't mean that I don't respect it in his filmography and his creativity. It just didn't speak to me. In the mid '90s, and this is like 5 years after it was on television, that's when I finally got into Twin Peaks. And unfortunately, when Twin Peaks came out here, it came out in 1990. No, 91. Sorry, it came out in 91, and it was advertised really heavily, like, you know, the big, you know, event of the year. It's like straight from the America. It's like the biggest show in the United States, and I do not react well to the peer pressure and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm not watching this. Go to hell. I like to discover stuff for myself, and fortunately, I managed to rediscover, really, probably, but discover Twin Peaks on cable. It was just, I think, a random episode, and I was half watching it, and then suddenly, thanks to Lynch's kookiness, I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And I was hooked. And it was like, oh my god, this is amazing. So after that, I was like, I must watch all of this, and yeah, it's one of those shows that became one of my favorite shows. It's not perfect. I mean, it does fall down in the second season, but and as I said, the thing about Lynch is, like, when he does stuff like his unusual creativity, you just think, how are you going to pull this off? And somehow he did, especially having a show that finished with two of the characters saying, yeah, we will meet again in 25 years, and you just go, well, you know, that's nice sentiment, but yeah, 25 years later, he did season 3, and it was like brilliant, absolutely amazing. I was like, he hadn't lost his edge, especially with those characters, and it was just brilliant. Other things of Lynch's that I remember is the video clip to Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden was him, and you just watch it and go, yeah, that's David Lynch. As I said, it's that surrealness and just amazing sort of eye for detail, and that's the thing I really always loved about Lynch, is like, whether you like the movie or the TV show or not, you won't forget it, and you can't ignore it. It's just like, wow, he's just out of the box sort of creativity. Just, it attracts the attention, and he'll always be remembered for that. I guarantee it. Like, it's just one of those things. People will go back and have a look at some of the stuff. I probably should go back and fill in the gaps of his movies that I haven't watched, and there's a few. But I mean, I'll freely admit that I started rewatching Twin Peaks, you know, the day that it was on the news. I was like, damn. And I watched the first couple of episodes and just got right back into it again too, which is great. But yeah, like, I know it sounds like, you know, just cliche to say it, but he really won't. He'll be missed but never forgotten, because his body of work is ridiculously impressive. Like, just not just cinema and television, but music and just art in general. Like, he was, as I said, he was the purest expression of an artist, and great interviews too. Like, I mean, I thoroughly recommend, if you haven't, for those watching this, go on YouTube, type in David Lynch interviews, and just watch some of his interviews, because he's very funny, very dry, and sometimes he can be very just like completely just brutal. But once again, it's all part of his charm and that, and you just go, yeah, that's David Lynch. Great hair too, but but yeah, as I said, it's sad. I mean, he was 5 days from his 79th birthday, which is, it's like, damn, nearly made it to 79. But I mean, like, honestly, the amount of stuff he achieved is just mind blowing. Like it's incredible. And I mean, it's when you watch his stuff, you understand why he is one of those directors that got final cut. Like, eventually, after, he didn't get it on Dune, but when he's doing his own stuff, it's like, yeah, no one's stepping in going, oh, we're gonna recut your movie, David. It's like, I don't think so. But because no one else had his vision out there. It's like he was unique in everything he did, and he, as I said, he'll be missed, but he'll never be forgotten, because there's just so much out there in different genre and different style, and even though it's a different style of film, it's still a Lynch film, so it's like, it's always going to have that. So yeah, I do recommend, for those who haven't, dust off some David Lynch. Let's remember him for his amazing creativity and everything he contributed to the arts. It's sad that we lost him, but he left so much behind, which is impressive. And yeah, so whether it's movies or his television, he even did I think it was called On the Air. He did a sitcom, which is just, it didn't last very long, but it's still like, David Lynch did a sitcom. Who would have thought? And it is worth watching too. I think you'll find episodes on YouTube. I don't think it's on any streaming services, but yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like, Dune might not be a thing, but Blue Velvet might be. You may love Eraserhead, or really think The Elephant Man's worth watching over and over again. It doesn't matter, but let's just go through and have a look at some of his stuff again, and I guarantee that, as I said, it may not be your cup of tea, but you can't ignore him. You never could, and you never will be able to, honestly. So rest in peace, David Lynch. Thank you for all your amazing work, for giving us characters like FBI agent Dale Cooper, and putting together some impressive television and cinema. Rest in peace.
Great. Pay dirt. You have to speak up, Sheriff. Hearing's gone. Long story. Got these things cranked up to the max.